and welcome. It is time once again for CU Immigration here on WRFU LP Urbana 104.5 FM. Now out of breath. I will be your host for this evening. My name is Mr. Garza, and I am here to let you know, well, I'm here for a number of reasons, but one of them is to let you know that WRFU is an open forum for the Urbana-Champaign community, which I'll bet you didn't know. Another reason I'm here is to inform you that views expressed are those of the speakers. And I'd also like to share the fact that those views are not intended to represent WRFU, UC IMC, Urbana Socialist Forum, or, as we like to say on the televised version of this show, UPTV. These views are our own, and by our, in this instance, there's something flying in here. There's a strange bug flying around here in my face. In this instance, I mean by us, I mean myself and my guest, who will hopefully introduce herself.
Okay.
Now.
I'm Mugiko, came from Japan. I am also the host of the Harukana show from WRFU every Friday, so probably you know my voice. And yeah, and the Harukana show is a Japanese radio show. And yeah, and like that. And Tom's also the member of the Harukana show. He supports the engineering work, and but in the Harukana show, I have no time to ask Thompson about immigration forum. So today I came here to listen more about immigration forum.
Immigration Forum, you say?
You said that this is a CU Immigration Forum radio show, isn't it?
Funny that you would ask about that topic, given that that's the theme of the show. That's the sponsor of the show, if you will. Yeah. Well, I can tell you whatever I know that you might like to know.
Because first I said every week I listen this show from Japan. Now I came here for my holiday, just August. But usually I stay in Kyoto, and I'm teaching anthropology in Kona University, Kobe. So every day I commute by train, and your show, Immigration Forum show, I listen in the train by streaming like that.
It's very popular over there, is it?
Probably. Yeah, I didn't ask any person, so I don't know.
But you see lots of people with the...
yes.
Well, they're
more
probably
people
all
listen to something, but I don't know. They use, of course, earphone like you, so like smartphone, I listen. Yeah. More people listen to some music, or more people sleep in the morning.
No, I think they're probably listening to the show.
Yeah.
That's my guess. Is that if you see somebody with headphones or something, they're probably listening to the show.
I love your show because I'm interested in, of course, the immigrant issues. But in Japan's newspaper recently means after Trump got his government, and then the more news, sensational news come to Japan, especially about the executive order. Most of news focus on the policy by Trump, but I think the immigrant issues, it's different to a local background. I think the Americans is more United States of America, so each state or each local area is a different kind of issues. Of course, the more commodity of among the states, but you have some background of urban Champaign Urban Immigrant Forum. So that's today I want to know more the local thing, local activity, your activity. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, the first thing you ought to know that might be useful for you to know is that Trump has pretty much one skill, and that is making people talk about him. So he's very good at doing and saying things to get people all stirred up and excited so that everybody's talking about what's Trump doing, what's Trump thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
That's his skill. And so from a distance, when you're looking at the U.S. and you're reading about us, you're probably reading about the latest thing he said or the latest thing he did.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're not hearing is anything about whether something came of it or not, whether it actually caused something to happen or not. So beware or be wary when you read headlines about the U.S.
Yeah.
that it's really just this spectacle of somebody going, look at me, look at me, look at me, and everybody's looking at them, and he's not necessarily doing as much as he seems, which is not to say, of course, that he's not doing damage and making things happen. It's just the damage and the things happening are sort of secondary to the attention. So the attention is the reason, and everything else is a side effect of that. So just so you know.
Yeah, yeah. Indeed, the mass media in Japan, that every day we can see that Trump now he's very popular, and thanks to the Trump, I think also that for example, the immigrant issue also getting popular in Japan, because before people not so interested in the immigrants in USA like that.
Yeah.
But now, but for example, your organization, CU Immigration Forum, was not born in a year, and the Immigration Forum itself started several years ago, not under the Trump government. So, for example, what is the social background and your activity started from? What kind of?
Well, immigration as an issue, as opposed to immigration as just something that's happening, has been, it comes and it goes. And so if you study U.S. history, you will realize, and I think we were talking about this earlier, how, over the years, immigration will be this big issue, and then it goes away, and then it comes back again, and it goes away. And
but my question is about more local, local context.
Right. Well, you asked how we were born or why we were born. And the answer to that is that at the time, immigration was sort of on an upswing in terms of becoming a big issue again. And so a number of individuals who were interested in or had a long-standing interest in or relationship to the issue of immigrants and immigration decided that we should pool our resources and just get together regularly and talk about what we were doing. So that is the context of how we got together. It's just people who have always been doing this kind of work, or for a long time anyway, thought that we could maybe work more successfully together than apart. And we could maybe affect things by working together. So that's the background. And in this area, the driver at the time was both the national renewal of interest in immigration and people talking about it and being angry or upset about it, and that kind of drove everybody to that kind of gets us more involved, because when you work with immigrants, they react to the news just like you're reacting from Japan. They're reading the news here as well. And so they hear, more immigrants are being picked up, or more deportations, or, they read that stuff and they react to it. So even if nothing is happening, they're still reacting to it. They're still reacting to what they're being told. So at the time, there was a lot going on, but the primary driver, aside from just this idea that maybe we could work together, was the fact that the government had, I won't say recently, it started a while ago, but had implemented a policy called Secure Communities, which was basically this idea that by prioritizing immigrants with some sort of criminal background, making them the priority for removal. There's something flying around here.
Oh, yes.
That the government could take their limited resources and use them most effectively. They would make communities safer by removing. Well, this is the story anyway. By removing immigrants who were here illegally and who had some sort of criminal background, rather than just randomly like picking up whoever they ran into, but by going specifically for immigrants who had been convicted of crimes or had committed crimes, they would be making communities safer and being more sensible about how they spent their resources. That was the stated intention of it. Underneath that, which I don't think anybody realized at the time but was slowly starting to become clear, was that the other reason for this program was if they could get local law enforcement individuals to work as essentially de facto immigration agents, they would be getting that work for free. The federal government would be getting it for free, so they wouldn't have to pay for it. So not only are they focusing their efforts on a specific group of individuals, which would mean they're not wasting money just randomly, trying to find people to deport, but they're focusing directly on a certain group that has problems with the legal system anyway, and by recruiting local law enforcement to work on their behalf and to basically store prisoners for them until they were ready for them, they would save a lot of money. So to the federal government, this was a great thing, and they loved it, and they started pushing it all over the place. But we, from our end, you were asking about locally, how we became involved with that in particular was that we started hearing stories of people who would just be picked up and just disappear. They would just be gone. So it's like Mugiko went to the store to go shopping, and she never came home. What happened to her? Where is she? So we call around, and finally, she was arrested. Well, what for?
Oh.
Well, we can't tell you. It was just weird. People would be picked up or stopped for some reason, and then just go to jail and never come out. And it was just strange. And I don't mean to say like never come out. It wasn't like years and years, but there were people who would be held for weeks for nothing, for a very small infraction. So ordinarily where you'd go and you'd be arrested for not having a driver's license, and you'd be in there for a while, and then you'd post bail and come out, you'd go in there and you wouldn't come out. And then I'd call and it's like, oh, the immigration authorities came and got you and you went away. So like, how was this happening? We were trying to figure out how this was happening, what was actually going on. And that's what it turned out to be. The Secure Communities program was based around this idea that local law enforcement, if they picked you up and discovered that you were not a legal citizen of the United States, they would send your information to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, who would then say, yeah, hold her for us and we'll come and get her. So even if you posted bail, if you were found to be not guilty of whatever it was you were picked up for, no matter what the resolution of your original complaint was, you were still in jail and you were held until they came and got you and you went away. So you would basically, as I said, never come out. You would just disappear. You'd go in there and then you'd be deported and you'd be gone, and that would be the end of you. So that was very disturbing to a number of people, and obviously, families were upset, people were upset, and so we tried to figure out what that was about, and that kind of took us from a group that may have lasted for a little while, just kind of having some meetings, and then eventually sort of ran out of steam. You know how some groups get together and they start working, and it's like, oh, this is interesting, but there's not a real driving force behind it. This gave us an issue to kind of coalesce around and and really, feel strongly about and try to do something about. So we went from sort of being this idealized group of people who would just come together and share information to a group that was working on a topic that we cared about. And that's kind of how we went from being just a general group to a very specific kind of close-knit group that has continued to this day. That's a long answer. I'm sorry.
That's the starting point. You
kind of, yeah. That's how we began.
Several years ago?
Yeah, it was 5 years ago. Maybe?
5 years ago.
I don't know, something like that.
But now I sometimes, when I came here, sometimes attend your meeting, immigration forum meeting every second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday. Yeah.
Last week also I visited. Yeah, and every time so different, variety of people come from individuality or from different organizations. Now the starting point is more you think about the arrest and or more serious problems to protect the human rights of such kind of persons or etc. But now is more different. The people come more different from different organizations. As after several years, now what is the immigration forums? Who join your forum? It means my first question is, what is a forum? And what kind of people come and get together and what you are doing?
Well, a forum generally is kind of like a big conversation where ideas are presented and people debate them or discuss them or whatever. So the basic structure of the group has remained intact throughout, which is that we are a group of individuals who are interested in this topic who get together to share information. That has remained constant throughout. We also do other things, sometimes more, sometimes less, sometimes collectively, sometimes individually along the way, but we've remained a forum in that sense throughout our entire history. Who's coming now? It changes all the time, and it has changed since we began. There are a core group of individuals, just really a handful, who have remained consistent over the years and have been involved since near the beginning, if not at the beginning. But everybody else just sort of comes for as long as they feel they can contribute something or they feel like they're getting something out of it. And what drives them to come in the first place can be anything from they hear about it from a friend and they go, oh, that's interesting. I'm interested in this. I want to be involved. To lately when, as you mentioned earlier, the Trump effect, just he stirs things up. So people are all stirred up and they're looking for some way to respond. And if immigration is your topic of interest, then you're looking for a group that does something related to immigration. And we are that group in this area. So that would be us.
And last meeting also some person it is the first time, but they find the immigration forum is July 4th, July 4th demonstrations, march, like that. I'm so interested. It's your activities more cooperative from grassroots activity, some group from people come, some groups, the more usual community person also drop in to. So and so what did you do the July 4th in the parade?
Well, July 4th was a conscious effort to reach out to as many people as we could find and give them an opportunity to make a statement. Because we knew post-election, there's a fly flying around in here. Post-election, that a number of people were really disturbed and upset about the topic and about the turn that the government was taking in a direction of being very anti-immigrant. And they want to do something. They've wanted to do something. We've had calls from people saying, how can I help? What can I do? And that's really, if you think about it, is a lot more difficult to answer than it might seem. Like, what can you do about this issue that's national, that's controlled by people far away who are pulling the strings and making the decisions? And most of what you can do is just respond to things in some way. But the biggest point is probably not the right word, but the biggest issue that we identified post-election was that people were afraid, people were upset, and people were angry, and they wanted to say, this is not the way I see my country. This is not the way we should be. This is not who we are, basically. That was what, of all the different things people wanted to do, that's what sort of underlay everything was, I want to somehow say, I don't agree with this. I didn't vote for this guy. I don't hold those beliefs. I don't think that this is right. So that's how I think the idea of the 4th of July event came about, was just what can we do to give a lot of people the opportunity to make that statement. And 4th of July, I'm not sure what you know about that holiday, but it's basically a holiday designed to celebrate